Hello everyone, my name is Colleen. Today I think that I would like to talk to you about how important it is to have a really good supply of canning seals for people who, when in the heat of the summertime or the fall when all of our vegetables are coming on, we need to be canning. In fact, many of us can year-round, so it's really important to have a good supply that we can access at any time. I think that we could also agree that the canning lid shortages that we've experienced in the last couple of years has been kind of horrible, which meant for a lot of us that we went looking overseas for seals and were really not happy with the results. There was buckling of the lids, there was rust. Some of the seals, the rubber around the seal had gaps. They were poorly constructed and they were really thin. So when I was approached by a canning lid company, they create seals and rings, I was really skeptical. They sent me an email and asked if I would be interested in trying their product, and I just really ignored that email. However, recently I received another email from the same company, and they said that they would be happy for me to do an honest review and that they would send me lids in the mail and that it wouldn't cost me anything to try these out. So I said yes, I would give their lids a try based on the idea that it would be an honest review, because I'm not prepared to back anything that I haven't tried. So today I'm going to share with you this company, and I'm going to be doing it as I make beef stew in my Nesco canner, and I'm going to bring you along for the process, and along the way I'm going to tell you a little bit about the lids, and then at the end I will give you my final remarks about the lids, because I want to keep it all above board and fair. So I'll gather up what I need and we'll get started. Well, hello. I am back again with all the ingredients that I need to do some pressure canning today. Today I'm going to use my Nesco canner, and I'm also going to use these new lids that I am trialing today for this company called Forjars, F-O-R-J-A-R-S. I'm trialing them myself so that I can provide you with the information, because this video will go up one way or another, whether the review is kind or whether I would say no. At this point, I'm very hopeful. So one of the first things that I did was to compare these lids. So this is a Bernardin lid, which is the brand that I have come to really rely on, and this is the new Forjars that we're trialing today. I held them up side by side, and they appear to me to be exactly the same depth. They feel the same, they have the same strength. The Forjars lid also has the dimple in the middle, which is really good. When I lay them down on the counter and I feel them, they feel just the same. The jars feel great. I checked the rubber on them, and in this case, the Forjars lids doesn't have a rubber finish like the Bernardin ones. They have actually a food grade safe silicone on their ring. Now, some people were concerned that that would mean that the seal wouldn't be there, but I can put my finger mark into the silicone, and when doing a bunch of research on this food grade silicone, it seems to perform really well. So today's the big test. So what I'm going to do to test these jars, these lids today, is I'm going to make beef stew. And I'm going to make it in my Nesco canner, which means that I have my 4 quart jars ready to go. These are just regular wide mouth jars. I prefer to use wide mouth when canning because it's just easier to get the food product out of there after it's been cooked. It's also easier to fill because of the wide mouth. So this isn't a complicated process to get ready for canning today. The ingredients are pretty simple. I've got all the things that you would think of when you were thinking about making stew. I've got cubed beef, and honestly, I just bought a sirloin roast at the grocery store and I cut it. I'm a little disappointed that it doesn't have a little more fat in it because I like it to be a little fatter, but this process of canning them, pressure canning them, will make this really nice and tender. So I've got my stewed beef, I got some cubed potatoes, I've got carrots, celery, onions, some spices, some garlic, and for the liquid part today, I'm going to do something a little different. I had quite a few jars of tomato juice left over from last year, and so I am going to be pouring these into my jars to fill them because I think the tomatoes will just add something to it. I should also say that this beef stew that I'm making won't be thickened until after I dump it out of the jars into the pot to reheat it, and then I'll thicken it then, because canning with flour is a bit of a dicey thing, it seems. I don't know. I've done it in the past and had good results, but that's definitely not something that I'm going to recommend. Besides which, it cuts down your options. If I just can this beef stew the way I'm going to today, when it comes out of the pot, I have a couple of options. One is that I can turn it into a soup because it hasn't been thickened, or 2, I could definitely thicken it and have a stew. So it leaves my options a little more open as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is just start at the bottom of the pot or the jar, and I am going to just add cubed beef into the jars until I've used up all of this beef that I have on my counter. Now, I would like to have had a little more in each jar, but this is what we have. So we'll try and even it out as much as possible. And yeah, something like that. Give it a little press down. I kind of like the stew a little more meat heavy than that, so that it's maybe halfway up the jar. But as I said, this is what we're working with today. I've got a garlic clove going into each jar. Normally I would use a bit of garlic powder, but I'm out, so therefore I'm using the real deal. I'm going to put about a half a cup of onions into each jar, and I may have to, there. Yeah, that looks not too bad. Now, next, I'm going to put about, I don't know, 1/4 cup of celery, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, whatever your family prefers. Now, if you were making beef stew for your family, honestly, how would you go about that? Just use the ingredients that your family will eat. That's the big thing. Because there's no sense canning it if nobody's going to eat it. And there we go, we got the carrots in. Just give them a little push. And now go the potatoes on the top. Now you can do this in any order you like. It really doesn't matter. I am going to just finish filling these jars. These new lids are available on a website, which I will link in the description box below. And if you follow that link, it will give you 10% off your first order of lids. And I think if you buy the 100 packs of lids, and they sent me both kinds, or a couple of them, so to give you an idea, they come in 24 lids per box, 50 lids per box, or 100 lids per box or sleeve. And the prices on them, I think when you buy the 100, are really quite reasonable. I was very surprised by how inexpensive they were. And when some of us have seen the prices, or had to pay the prices that were so high in this past couple of years, it's a treat to have something as good as this. It's nice to have this option of good quality lids and inexpensive pricing. That is a bonus for sure. So I'm going to move on now, and I'm going to add the spices to my jars. And I'm just going to add about a half a teaspoon of salt to each jar. And I'm going to follow it with some Italian seasoning. And it appears that I can't do two things at once, you know, talk and measure. And I want to say, when I was contacted by Forjars regarding whether or not I would give a review on this product, when I agreed to do the product review, I'm in Canada. I just put 2 scoops in that jar. I'm in Canada, and I thought it would take for absolute ever for the product to get here, but they mailed it on the 24th of January, and I had it within a week. So I think that's pretty fantastic. It came from Florida, and it came that fast. I have trouble getting mail across town that fast normally. So do take advantage of this offer. It's in the description box below. And there. I think I've got, oh, not quite all the spices in, I guess. Now, I like to add a bit of bay, but my bay leaves were really large, so I'm just going to break them in half and stuff them down the side of the jar, because you don't need like a whole bay leaf in 1 quart. Now I'm going to open up this first jar of juice. I'm going to give it a good shake. Now, I got this juice when I was oven roasting potatoes to make tomato sauce. And this is the juice that was left over on the sheet tray. So I just save it and can it, and the juice is delicious. And we love to drink it, but there was a lot. So I'm just going up to the bottom. Oh, that smells so good. I'm just going up to the 1-inch mark, which is this bottom ring all the way around the jar. That is, if you go to the bottom of that ring, that gives you 1-inch headspace, which is what you need when you are pressure canning. I might have to go get another jar. But first, I'm going to go around this jar with my skewer and make sure that I've gotten all the air bubbles out, because we don't want air in there trapped somewhere that could cause us issues down the road, because the air could be trapping particles that we don't want. So yes, I need a little more in that one. I should have shaken that first. Is this going to be a disaster? There we go. Just tip a little more in to bring it back up. And this one as well. Now, I do hope that you will give these rings a try, and I'm pleased to be working today with Forjars to provide them with this review. But as I said previously, it'll be an honest review. So you will be able to see the finished product. You can follow me along as we go through the process. I believe this to be a fair and honest review because I'm using my Nesco canner, which it has controlled heat all the time. I don't have worries about that. When I plug it in and turn it on and set it to go, I get the same result every time. So I've done beef stew in the past and I know what has to happen. So if you have any doubts about the process, that should dispel them, I think. Oh darn, I did it again. Now, the reason I only put a half a teaspoon of salt in these jars too is that my tomato juice has a bit of salt seasoning in it. So I didn't want to over season the jars. And if you are using any kind of bouillon, you must be careful as well unless it's salt-free or sodium-free, because it could easily get over-salted. Now I'm going to add just a little more to this one. There we go. And still I have a little left over. So for anybody that was asking, what do you do with all that tomato juice? I guess there's the answer to that. We're going to use it in this stew, which I think is going to be delicious. Now, the directions on the Forjars lids say to wash them in warm soapy water, which I did, and I rinsed them good. So they're all ready to go. I think the directions are the same on the Bernardin box as well, where it says that they only say that they're good for 18 months. I think that lots of us have had food canned in our cupboards for more longer periods of time than that, but I think that they have to do their due diligence as well. And we should be making sure that we're rotating our food too, so that we don't have to worry about food spillage. So now I am just, while I was talking away, I wiped all the rims of the jars to make sure that there's no food particles on. I've checked the jars to make sure that there's no chips or cracks, because I want to give a fair and honest review of these new lids. And I also don't want to lose the product in the jars because of something that I've overlooked. So now I'm just going to put so today I am working with my Nesco canner, and I love this thing. I've had it now for, I guess, around 1.5 years. And at this point I've probably put around 300 jars of food through this processor. And I love it as much today as I ever did, and definitely will continue to use it. The canner itself is it's awkward on my countertop. So the first thing that's required is to put 8 cups of water in my canner. Now, I'm going to just turn it a little bit so that the lid will stay open while I put the jars in. So when I first got my Nesco canner, it came with an instruction booklet that said to put in only 4 cups of water. And then after a time, the new ones came out and said to put in 8 cups of water, which I was much more comfortable with, because if you're canning for 90 minutes, I was down to just maybe 2 teaspoons of water in the bottom of the canner, which I was quite uncomfortable with. But I'm glad to see they've changed that, and now we're up to 8. So I've got all my stew in the jars. I'm going to just turn this back around. Hopefully you can see what's going on. And I'm going to lock my lid. I'm going to make sure that I am on exhaust because it needs to exhaust like any canner for 10 minutes before I flip the lever over and it goes to full pressure. You will continue to hear a little bit of steam popping out of the steam vent at the back because it needs to vent it sometimes to keep the pressure up there. I am over 2,500 feet in elevation, and so I need to use the 15-pound weight on this canner, and I've got the lid locked, and I'm going to go to high pressure, and I'm going to set my time to 90 minutes because I'm using quartz. And this is kind of a set it and forget it. You can't forget it right away, but in 10 minutes I'll be able to, 10 minutes after the process starts and steam is finished venting, then I can flip it over to close it up, and then I can walk away and I'm done. So if you haven't already had a look for a Nesco canner or another electric canner, then by all means, they are definitely wonderful, and especially for just a couple or a single person who just puts away a little bit. You don't have to be prepping for the end of the world in order to still put away good tasty food for you and your family, or you and your husband, or just yourself. So please consider this. It's a great little canner, and I'm not being paid to say that either. So I will see you back here. What has to happen with this now is that it's going to go through the process, and then I am going to leave it and let it depressurize naturally. And once it's done that, I'll remove the jars from the canner and I'll put them onto the counter, where we will leave them untouched for 24 hours. And then I will come back and let you know how I felt about the lids, because that's what we're here for today, really, is to test the lids. So we'll be back soon, and it'll seem like a flash to you. Okay, folks, away we go. Well, here I am back at the end of this test for these Forjars canning lids, and I am excited to say that I had 100% success in the 4 jars that I canned. 4 jars. This seems to me so far that this is a really reliable brand of lids. I tested them in my Nesco canner, which is the canner that I've been using almost exclusively now for almost 2 years, and I am just really pleased with the results. You'll be able to see, I'll get this one up here, it's kind of out of your vision, that the lid's all sealed down, and when I take the bands off, I can hold the lid up to give it a good check. And now I'm going to remove the rest of them. Maybe if I pull them back here, you'll be able to see them a little better. I'll remove the rest of them and do the same test, which I've already done, and just put the bands back on, just to give you an idea. So I definitely recommend this company. This is a BPA company. The lids are BPA, which is really important to all of us. They have food grade silicone gaskets in them that are working really well for me. And they have a shop called Forjars.com, where you can go and have a look at them. That's Forjars.com, and they come in sleeves of 100 lids, 50 lids, 24 lids, in all your standard sizes. These are regular mouth, and this 100 pack is wide mouth. And if you are interested in learning more about the product, go to the website. If you are interested in purchasing use the link in my description box below, and Forjars will give you 10% off any purchase that you make through my link. So I hope that you'll give them a shot, because I truly believe they're a good product. And I will let you go for now and see you the next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.